Hey guys, welcome back to the video. In this video, we're going to be talking more about the Batman. Now, we have a lot of stuff to talk about today because I haven't made a Batman video in a while. And the biggest thing we're going to talk about today is the early screener. They did a second test screening and we have some reactions from that. Also, I'm going to be going over some of your comments from previous videos. And as usual in these videos, I'll be giving a lot more of my theories based on new information we have. And finally, I'll be going over some of your guys' comments and my thoughts on them. If you guys are new in here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you don't miss any time I have a new video or I go live. Both always seeing more time. Let's get into it. So starting it off, today we're going to be talking about the second screener / test screener information. The stuff we got, the stuff that I'm gonna be talking about in this video is coming from either BSL Big Screen Leaks or Viewer Anon. They were both really reliable when it came to the first test screening, so that's why I'm using their information here. Again, if you don't want to believe them, don't believe them. Also note that there might be slight spoilers for the movie ahead. There's one massive character reveal that's basically confirmed through these test screenings. Nevertheless, we're gonna start off with the first tweet from BSL that said, "I've heard reactions to hashtag the Batman were very good. The action was top notch and even a few comedic scenes that got lots of laughter. I heard of some of the dialogue was repetitive at times, but overall people really enjoyed it and I got lots of applause when it was over." Now this one is obviously a really basic review about it, but overall I'm just excited. It shows that it's not going to be all serious. There's still going to be comedic moments. It's not going to be all dark, and I really like that. I think when a movie's too dark it doesn't work, but when it's too lighthearted it doesn't work. So I'm glad to hear that there's a good balance. Moving on to the next tweet by BSL, he said that "I heard the Batman is a detective film first and foremost. Batman truly lives up to his name as the world's greatest detective." I'm really happy to hear this because I was scared that this movie would dive either too deep into the detective side and not be good enough at it, or just not dive deep enough at all. And I'm glad to hear that it dives deep into it and it's really good. So this next one says that there was no post-credit scene at last night's screening of the Batman. Also, these tweets are fairly old. This is like mid to late November, by the way. So just so you know, I'm kind of late on reporting this, but I wanted to talk about it anyway. Nevertheless, the fact that it had no post-credit scene, I think that's basic for a movie, but I also think it leads to more of the Joker theory that a lot of people are speculating, how he's probably just a post-credit scene. But a few other reports coincide with that, so I do think it's pretty interesting. And the final tweet from BSL says, "Little tidbit, Michael Giacchino's score for the Batman was included in last night's test screening." I heard that before this test screening the score just wasn't done, that's why it wasn't included, but now that it's completely done, obviously it's in the movie, and I'm excited to hear this. Now the next two tweets are from Viewer Anon. Again, he isn't a massive scooper, but he's been right about a lot of stuff with the Batman regarding the first two test screenings. So first thing he said was, "Couple more notes. The Batman is still in the 245 to 250-ish range, and everyone still really likes it. Give me some fucking drama here, Reeves. Gotta blate them clicks." And the next tweet from Viewer Anon is that, "I need to go to bed. My impression based on tweaks in the latest cut is that Warner Brothers is trying to find the best balance between teasing a sequel and making the Batman feel complete on its own." Now, in my opinion, this is going to go hand in hand with Viewer Anon's final tweet of the night, which was, "Psst, Barry Keoghan was not in the last two screenings of the Batman, but he was there tonight." Now, this is very interesting to me because we know that there was no post-credit scene, but at the same time, Barry Keoghan was in the screener, so that means that he was in the movie itself, not just the post-credit scene, which makes Viewer Anon's other tweets also really interesting because he said Warner Brothers are trying to find a balance between teasing a sequel and making this movie more of its own thing. And I find it really interesting just because of the fact that they might be doing too much with the Joker in this movie, and Warner Brothers might want to cut that down a little bit to make it feel like its own movie. And that's what I was really worried about. If you guys know or watched my last Batman video where I talked about Barry Keoghan as the Joker, I was worried that they were going to put him too much in this movie and not leave enough room for Riddler. And we talked about this in a subreddit video as well, where we went over r/the Batman subreddit, but I think that they'll figure it out by the end because they put him in this newest test screener. They obviously wanted to see how audience reacted. They wanted to see how the sequel bait, I guess, worked and stuff like that. Now, the final tidbit I got for the newest screener for the Batman was that apparently the movie doesn't end with like a massive grandiose scale battle. It doesn't end with like massive explosions, stuff like that, but apparently it's a more personal fight within the Batman himself, which I'm really excited for. I don't think everything needs to be big and flashy, and I think this will really work. But yeah, guys, that's basically all I wanted to talk about with the third screener of the Batman. But now I want to talk about some of my theories before we do get into recent comments. And again, if you want one of your comments featured in a future video, make sure to comment them down below. A question or thought on the Batman, anything works. Now I want to talk about one of my theories. This is very heavily inspired from Boba Talks. If you haven't already checked out his channel, he makes phenomenal Batman videos. Now, Boba Talks' theory was a pretty crazy one, but I actually feel like it's not that far-fetched, to be honest, especially if Matt Reeves wants to go the Zodiac, that 7 route with a lot of twists and turns in the movies. I think this one would be a really big twist that would work really well. And this massive twist is that we think that the Riddler could be Batman's brother. Now, I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but just hear me out. I'm going to give the explanation Boba gave, and then I'll be giving my own thoughts on it. So the reasoning that Boba Talks gave was there's many similarities between Batman and the Riddler, and the main thing in this movie is trying to find the difference between the Batman and the Riddler. The Batman is too similar to the Riddler. They're just doing the basic stuff differently. The way they're going about their aspirations is different. So for example, their similarities include but are not limited to them being orphans, which is I think the biggest one, but also another massive one is them wanting to end corruption, except obviously they're going about it in different ways. Now the biggest differences are that the Riddler was alone in the slumps of Gotham for all of his life. He had no one there to help him, whereas Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, had Alfred, a non-violent person with some control over him, and he obviously grew up to become almost a killer, like the Batman is on the edge and teetering the line in this movie, but he never has crossed the line. But where my opinion into this theory comes into play is I think this works for not only Riddler and the Batman, but also Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, because she's also an orphan, and connecting all three of these characters together, they all function the same but under a different set of rules, if that makes sense, but they all have the same end goal. They all want to end some level of corruption. Selina Kyle is only stealing because that's what she was taught to do. The Riddler grew up in the slumps of Gotham. He really has not learned anything else, but the Batman has learned a bunch of other stuff. He's learned how to cope with his anger, and now he's using that for good. I know that theory is a little bit out there, but I do think it could be true, and there's a big possibility that it is true. But now I want to start talking about some of the comments you guys have left on the videos. I have 4 comments and 1 post from a subreddit, and I just wanted to go over this post because it was a comment underneath me posting my video. And this guy said, I might get downvoted, but at this point I'm ready for an R-rated Batman movie based on the early detective comments where he wears purple gloves, uses a gun, and solves cold murder cases. I know that's not who Batman is anymore, but that's just what I want to see. Now, I agree with this guy a little bit. I just feel like the whole idea of a secret identity nowadays is what really limits a character, and other than not being able to kill, there really is no limitation on Batman other than his mental health side of things. But I think that him not killing will really influence his mental health side of things in a better way than him killing and suffering from mental health problems, and that's evident within when we're comparing Christian Bale's Batman and Ben Affleck's Batman. They both have the same mental struggles, but the fact that Christian Bale's Batman can't kill is what separates him and what makes him a lot better to me than Bale's Batman. Because I think that the discussion of a rated R Batman shouldn't be put aside. I think that a rated R Batman should work, but I don't think it should work for the point of Batman just killing people. I think it would work in making it more gritty and making it more grounded and making it feel like death is possible. But I think that Matt Reeves will teeter the line. And we talked about this in the last video where I talked about someone else's comment, and they talked about how rated R movies or PG-13 movies have been pushing the line to rated R a lot lately, and that person believed that the Batman could do it just as well, and I agree. But the first comment from a YouTube video is from Milk Elise Samuel. He said, I'm so excited for this film and the potential it brings for an extended Batman universe. I also have many theories and speculations of what characters and plot lines could likely come to be, and how Matt Reeves will combine faithful, fantastical elements with most characters, and yet make them grounded enough and suitable for the film's tones, as well as adding further nuance to them. These are some of my castings for an extended Batman 2022 film cinematic universe. Dave Bautista plays Bane, Evan Rachel Wood plays Poison Ivy, Michael Fassbender plays Mr. Freeze, John Carroll Lynch plays Professor Fig, Winston James Francis plays Killer Croc, Oliver Jackson Cohen plays Two-Face, and Toby Jones plays Mad Hatter. Now, this comment is from a long time ago, but I just saw it, so I thought it was really interesting to go back and give some of my fan castings, and I do agree with most of these. I think the one I agree with the most has to be either Michael Fassbender as Mr. Freeze or Dave Bautista as Bane. I think Dave Bautista as Bane would be so perfect, but I just want to kind of talk about Mr. Freeze. There's one actor, I keep forgetting his name. He's in The Mandalorian, and he's absolutely phenomenal. He's also in Breaking Bad, and he's just a great actor. I would love to see him play Mr. Freeze, but I feel like he's done a lot of villain roles to maybe it'll feel a little generic, but all the villain roles he's played all feel unique, so I think he could bring something really special to the role. Other than that, in that video that he commented under, I didn't have a casting for Poison Ivy or even Professor Fig, Killer Croc, or Mad Hatter. If Barry Keoghan isn't playing the Joker in some world, I would love for him to play the Mad Hatter. But yeah, the main ones I'm really interested in here is Michael Fassbender's Mr. Freeze. I never really thought of that one before, and I think it could be really interesting. I would love to see like a fan art of him as Mr. Freeze first, first, but I've seen a lot of fan arts as Dave Bautista as Bane, and he just looks perfect as Bane in my opinion. But the next comment is from Chris. He said, isn't the mayor's son gonna have a connection to the Batman? They said the mayor's son and Batman are gonna have something that can set up. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he's mentioning Barry Keoghan playing the mayor's son and being in GCPD and stuff like that, and I think he's questioning why they would lie about Barry Keoghan's role. And so I think that would be really interesting, because I feel like maybe they're just lying about the whole thing, because we know that Barry Keoghan was either going to play the Mad Hatter or the Joker. He posted that Mad Hatter photo. I think the hat photo confirmed some villainous role, I guess. Whether it's the Mad Hatter or the Joker, I think it confirmed one of those two roles. But I don't think we ever had any confirmation that Batman and the mayor's son are going to have a big connection. Nevertheless, I do think it's interesting that they did mention that specific connection, and maybe someone else is playing the mayor's son, and that connection is still going to be there. I just don't want to believe it's Barry Keoghan, because I want Barry Keoghan to either be Mad Hatter or the Joker. Now moving on to the next comment. This one's from Superwise. He said, I think this is a genius idea, fleshing out the criminal underworld of Gotham, showing Penguin's rise to power. Seems like a solid way to flesh out different parts of this universe. We got GCPD, the cop side of things, and now Penguin, the deeper corrupt side. Love these expansions, so unbelievably hyped for the Batman. Now this is under the video where I talked about the spinoff for the Batman, reported by Hollywood Insider, I think, and I was so hyped, but I'm still so hyped about this show, because like Superwise said, I'm so happy that they're fleshing out two complete opposite sides of Gotham's spectrum when it comes to the higher class GCPD and then the lower class criminal underworld, and just the polar opposites that they're going to be showing in this universe in just TV shows is going to allow for a better film when it comes to the second and third movies. Penguin and GCPD are both coming out between Batman 1 and Batman 2. Now this is really interesting to me, because obviously we know Penguin only has like 4 to 6 scenes in the Batman 2022, so him having a show will let us have that character so fleshed out that by the second movie it'll feel like he was in Batman 2022, but also had a full movie in between for characterization. The character is just going to be so well done, in my opinion, through the show, that we won't have to set him up, and we won't have to waste time in the next movie setting up Penguin's character. There's a lot of villains in superhero movies nowadays that you spend so much time setting them up, but it's still not enough time for us to care about the villain, and there's still such an underwhelming character. But I think the way that the Batman universe is doing this, and with Warner Brothers greenlighting all of these side projects and the expansion of this universe, everything will just work really well when we're talking about, I guess, the future movies. Now the final comment I want to go over is again from Milky Samuel, and he said, this is particularly interesting since I personally believe Robin Lord Taylor's Penguin is my favorite live action Penguin, so I'm particularly interested to see what Colin Farrell will do in the role as Oswald Cobblepot. This just shows how confident DC / Warner Brothers are with Matt Reeves' Batman, and what potential sequels and world building can be produced from this film. Please give us a new Batman franchise, BCU or DCEU. Now all we need is a spinoff for Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, inevitably over time. Now overall, I do agree with you. I don't really have an opinion on the other Penguins, but I am happy with how confident DC and Warner Brothers are with this Batman universe, greenlighting shows that'll expand this universe without the movie even coming out yet. And then he also mentioned at the end a Catwoman spinoff show. I don't know about that. I'm going to be honest. I feel like Catwoman would be best as a side role in the movies only, but if we did get a Catwoman show, I would love for it to be more of a prequel show showing her past before Batman. And even though it's not that long of a past, it can still be like the few months before she met Batman, or even the year before she met Batman, just showing more of her past character so we can get more characterization, since we're already getting so much set up for the future and different worlds in the future, like the criminal underworld as well as the police department and stuff like that. I would love just more of a background instead of a future setup. But yeah guys, that's basically all for this video talking about the Batman 2022. Again, leave some comments of your thoughts and questions about this movie in the comments down below, and I'll make sure to get to them in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any time I upload a new video or I go live. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.